Hi everyone, and thank you for coming along to this workshop on tips and settings for Google Meet with remote learnings. There are quite a few bits and bobs I could talk about today. I've tried to narrow it down to the important things, I think, anyway. There will certainly be space at the end for some questions and comments, so keep them coming in. I'm hoping you can all hear me okay as well. We had some technical difficulties earlier with my Moat presentation, which is quite ironic, really, talking about verbal feedback and my microphone wasn't working properly, but hey ho, we live and learn. So I'm going to start off with a PowerPoint, which is going to take you through various settings, and I'll apologize in advance because there's quite a few slides in this PowerPoint, but the reason that I thought it was a better way to deliver it is some of the things you might want to check back on. So at the end of this session, there will be a Wakelet link, which will come on. Sharon's just putting up, she can't see me, that's deliberate. I'm just, I'm hiding in my sewing room just now. If I pop the screen on here, here we are, I can see you all now, okay. It is a link at the end of this to a Wakelet page, and you'll be able to just scan a QR code and you'll see a copy of all my slides in there, because I certainly know that a lot of people like to have these things in front of them and to be able to just kind of go through it step by step and to check it for settings. So hopefully you'll find that useful. And there's also going to be this video as well to watch back at the end of the presentations today. So I'm going to jump off the screen here and just go to the full screen settings so you can see my slides better. Okie dokie, right, so where are we? Okay, so settings. Well, I dare say a lot of you are already using Google Meet. If you're a Google school, there's every possibility you'll be using it, not just for lessons, but also for meetings as well. And you'll be becoming familiar with it and all the, I was going to say the pros, but there's also quite a few cons as well. So hopefully I'm going to address a few of those today. I'm going to look at a safe way for setting up meetings in Google Classroom, which will address a few of the safety concerns that people are having. We've also got some new features which I'm going to talk you through. There's quite a lot happening. It's a ever-changing thing, Google Meet, so some of the features you will not have. I've got my massive disclaimer on the bottom there, because the first thing people say is, oh, I've not got this or I've not got that. You will all eventually get everything, but a lot of it depends on your local authority, what they've given permission for, if they've allowed certain settings or they've prevented others as well. So bear with it. I think you'll find it useful, and like I say, you will have access to the slides. So say in 6 months, if you do get all these features, you'll be able to go back to the slides and you'll be able to have a wee look and just remind yourself how to set things up. We're also going to look at breakout rooms, which a lot of people haven't got yet. We haven't got it in Click Manager at the moment, but some people do. We've got the whiteboards feature as well, which I think everybody should have by now, which is basically a Jamboard. And I'm always being asked about sharing audio in a Google Meet. So I'll show you how to make sure your settings are set for that. Okie dokie, right, so moving on. Right, so setting up a meeting. Common areas of concern generally, a lot of having a live interaction with students. There's been some problems. Now, some people have been a bit concerned about students joining the meets in other classes. When everyone started doing Zoom meetings, there was all the phenomenon of Zoom bombing and people jumping into meetings that they weren't supposed to. That's kind of restricted within Google Classroom because it's restricted to people within your authority, within your school. However, it is a live meeting and in theory anybody can join it. So I'll show you a way to kind of prevent that. There's also students entering the meet before the teacher and them staying in the meet after the teacher, and also students going back to old meetings. So I'm going to show you how you can set the settings up on this to make sure that, well, you can't prevent it 100%, but it's kind of a good housekeeping way to lessen the likelihood of it happening. So I've done this. This is just a video of the screen. I'll show you when we go into doing a live demo, but this is just so you can see on here. One of the key things to remember, in the header of your classroom, you've got the display, the link for the Meet that's set within that. It's essentially the phone number for that classroom. So if you use the settings cogwheel in the top right hand of the page, you go into that and you'll see where the Meet details are in there. Make sure that where it says visible to students, make sure that that is switched off. Okay, if you have it on purple, if your classroom's purple, if you have it activated, then the students will be able to see that link and use it all the time. You've also got the option there to copy. So this is where I would go in to copy my Meet link. And when it goes back into the classroom, I would set up a message in the stream. And I would put in about 10 minutes before my meeting was due to happen. I would copy and paste that link in there. The students get to know this, they get familiar with this process, and they'll know to check the stream before a meeting, which, to be honest, is a good thing anyway, because a lot of students are just using their to-do lists and they're not actually checking the streams at all, and they're missing out on lots of important information. So you can see there, I've just added it as a link. And then that link will be available for them. So good housekeeping as well with this is when you have finished your meeting, you can take that link out of it. So that one there is just showing you in the video, it's just posting it. So at the end of a meeting, once it's finished, if you've got information in the stream, you don't have to, in that comment in the stream, you don't have to get rid of the whole comment. You can just go into edit by using the 3 dots and then deleting that link. And don't forget to hit save. And that means that the students can't go back into the meeting afterwards. You can also go back into the settings wheel in the top right, and you can use that to create a new link for that. So even if they had a note of the previous link, it's a new one that it will create in there. So you can reset it essentially, and that's in the settings wheel in the top right. So the safety settings, this is a very important area, especially if you've got concerned parents and concerned families. A lot can be done within the actual meeting. So ideally as a teacher, you want to go into the meeting maybe a few minutes before your meeting's due to start. And you can go in there and then there's this little blue shield down in the bottom of the screen. And when you click on that, it takes you to the meeting safety settings. Now this one here, you can just see I've got on the screen is a screenshot of it. And these are where all the switches would be, where they're toggled on. I'll look at the first one, which is the quick access feature. So if you toggle this switch off, which is to the left, it enables a waiting room. And it means that each student has to be admitted by you. So if you're concerned about people coming into meetings that shouldn't be, you'll be able to refuse them entry. They'll get a screen, which looks like this, or you'll get a screen, I should say. So you'll need to say, right, that person's not my class, we can deny them entry. Or obviously, hopefully it'll be somebody that you do want in your class and you can let them in. You've also got the ability to not let your students share their screen and not let them send chat messages. The thing is, though, when you do that, it applies to all the students. So you can't block an individual student from sharing their screen, which is a bit of a pity. So if one person's spoiling it, they're essentially spoiling it for all. I'll be honest, I've never had to worry about that. I've never had to use these. To be honest, I'm not sure just how keen on using sharing screens and chat messages the students are. Most of them won't even have their camera on. Very few will put their audio on. So it's unlikely that they're going to go as far as that. But if you do get some students who are maybe having a bit of a carry on and they want to put silly or inappropriate things on or messages which are not appropriate, then you can switch that off for all of them. If you click on the view all host settings, which you will find in your menu, I'll show you when we go into the link, you've got the opportunity there as well to change a few things. Now, this is quite important, certainly with the home economics teachers. A lot of us might want to use a second camera for doing a demonstration. So we'll have the camera on our laptop, but we'll also have a second camera and we might be using that as a demonstration. So you can actually switch between the two there, which is really good. Okay, so I'm going to start talking as well now about some of the newer features. I've got the account I'm going to show you in the demonstration. I have these features in this, but I don't have them in my work account. I'm expecting them to come along at some point, but just for the purposes of this, I'm going to show you in a private account that I have as well. But the basic gist of it all is the polls and question and answers in Google Meet. It's just new features. It's a really good way to start interacting with your audience while letting a meeting continue. I used previously, I used to work in a school, and we used a thing called Net Support, which was actually a way of interacting with your kids' computer screens, so you could send out polls to them and questions, and it was a wonderful way for checking and understanding during a lesson. If you're using Peer Deck, that kind of does that already, so it might not be of much use to you if you're quite happy to use Peer Deck, but it's certainly very useful within a Google Meet if you just want to gauge opinion. If maybe you're having a big planning meeting or something with staff and you want to just quickly send out a poll to get people's opinions on something. When you want to activate these, now this is quite interesting because in my account that I do have these features, I have this lovely little icon here with the wee puzzle shapes. But some people have got a jigsaw piece, and I don't know if that's to do with the version or not, but certainly within mine, I've got this one here. You'll see in some of the other pictures I've got, I have a picture of the jigsaw puzzle bit as well, so you'll know it's there. You've got your number of people in a meeting, you've got your chat stream, and then if you've got an updated account, you will have the activities option there. So the activities option opens up this menu here, and you have your 3 activities available to you, and it's just a case of selecting which one that you want. So if you're doing a poll on Google Meet, you would get this menu opening up, and it's just a case of starting a poll, and then you put the questions in. Really straightforward. So this one here, what's your favorite biscuit? And you can put in as many options as you like. It's just a really quick one for doing a multiple choice. Don't forget at the end as well to either launch it or save it. If you launch it, it goes instantly. If you save it, you can use it later on in the meeting, which is quite good as well. If you're wanting to maybe have an exit task, for example, that could be a really good way. You could get that set up at the beginning of your meeting and then have it ready for when you're finishing off your lesson. What the student will see on their screen is they'll see a green dot. Now you're going to have to train your students essentially to be aware of this, to look for it. So you might want to draw their attention to the fact that there is one, or if you kind of get into the habit of using it on a regular basis, they'll soon start to look for it. So you can see here, this is the puzzle piece that I was telling you about, which is appearing on some people's accounts. It seems to be different from one account to the other. I don't know if it's to do with the date of the version or not. But this is how they'll see it. They'll get a question that comes up there. They click on the option that they want, and then they press vote. And that's exactly all that happens. That's all that's needed. At the end of the meeting, you'll get an email with all the results in it. So you'll be able to see yourself, and you also get a displayed in your bar, in your menu bar on the right-hand side. You'll see those details as they come in. So it's a really good way to take a record as well of attendance. And that's something that's been particularly popular, certainly in the USA. I've heard a lot of teachers talking about using it for that purpose, having a poll right at the beginning. Are you here, I guess, would be a good question to ask. And they'll be able to answer yes or no, and they can have that record of their attendance. One of the beauties of it is it's like when you're using Google Forms, it puts a timestamp for every entry. So you could maybe even do them at various stages in a lesson. If you've got concerns about students ducking out of meetings halfway through, or even if they're just having it on in the background in a way doing something else, if you've got regular kind of time checks, attendance checks throughout, then they'll be having to forced into listening so they don't miss any of them. So there's a Q&A feature as well. It's just pretty much similar to that. Participants are able to answer and more text questions as well, text answers, which is really handy. And it's also a good way to stop people putting too much stuff in the chat, or if people are wanting to put questions in, if somebody's presenting and they're wanting to ask questions, then it'll be a case of you'll be able to see what they're wanting without it disturbing the meeting. So I'm gonna just show you, that's where the, oops, sorry, that's moving my pages around here. That's where the menu is for the Q&A. You can see it's at the bottom there. Like I say, that's not appearing in my other one, but it's certainly appearing in my private account at the moment. There's some instructions there for doing the Q&A. I'll let you read those in your own time, because like I say, there's a very good chance you've probably not got that in your accounts at the moment. Another question I get asked a lot about is the layout of the tiles in Google Meet, because especially if you've got a big class, you want to be able to see as many people as possible. So the way to do that, the instructions for changing that, it's when you're in your meeting, you can go down and the bottom right-hand side of the page, you'll find the 3 dots, which opens up your menu, and you've got the change layout option. Now, you've got this sliding bar along the bottom. That's the one I use all the time. And you just literally move it along to as many tiles as you want. You've got other options in here as well. If you go for the tiled one, that'll automatically have everybody's up there. And the spotlight is the one who's speaking. So the person that's making the noise, the camera will automatically defect to that person. And then you can have the sidebar. So if you've got a few other people in the meeting, you can have the speaker in the middle and then have the others along the sides so you can see people as well. There's a few things as well. There's some more information for you here. The 49 tiles is the maximum. The downside of that is it takes a lot of power for your computer to run that. So if you've not got a particularly great computer, it can cause some performance issues. You may need to just kind of slow it down. One of the first things it does is it tends to either freeze or then it'll drop out, the camera will drop out, so you'll just get the audio from that person. So if you see that happening, it's maybe a good idea just to adjust it back to a smaller setting. A few people as well have been discussing in chats about the grid view options and extensions. I've never gone for them myself. These are the ones that you'll find if you go into the web store. But to be honest, from what I can gather from them, and certainly reading some of the feedback, they appear to be, well, people have been downloading them and then they're ending up with lots of adverts and stuff coming up on their screens. So I would consider it carefully if you really need to get one of those. I think ultimately it's probably just as well to stick with the regular one. So the next feature I'm going to speak to you about is the breakout room. We've got, these are coming, I've been using them in my private account. We've been doing some kind of online games and stuff with them, which has been quite good fun. But if you've used Zoom before, you'll be familiar with breakout rooms. It's certainly a very useful way of having a class and being able to put them into groups. I mean, this is one of the things that's it's kind of been annoying me a little bit about so much online work, is we're really losing the opportunity for our students to be collaborating, which isn't what it should be. You know, they should be able to collaborate on documents and collections and presentations, but they just don't seem to be having that opportunity so much. So once breakout rooms are up and running, then, you know, that's going to be fantastic for them. We're going to be able to give them specific tasks and they can go into a breakout room. So as the moderator, you'll have the ability to put them into rooms. You can choose them, but there's also a random selection as well. You can have up to 100 breakout rooms. I can be honest with you, I've never had more than 3, but 100, that must be a very big crowd. You've got the opportunity to jump into these rooms as well. So even though the students are going to be in their own little rooms, you can jump in and out and see how they're getting on. Make sure that they're doing the work and not just chatting away. It's a really good way of controlling a group as well. And when I have seen them used in the past, and certainly I used to teach at a school and we used to use Zoom for our teaching, and we were constantly using breakout rooms there. And it was actually very good. You would be surprised how often the students were actually quite hard at work in the rooms. So give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so it's available for G Suite and education, but it's something that has to be switched on by your local authority. And once it's on, then you'll all need it. The other person as well, their accounts, they have to have it on their accounts. So if I have it in my private account, I can't use it with my work account, for example, because I don't have it on my work account. So the breakout rooms, when you want to use a breakout room, you will go into your puzzle shapes again, and you'll select breakout rooms, and then this window opens. And it's not drastically clear from this, but you actually have to press that button there to get the setup. So in the setup menu, you have the option there to adjust the number of rooms that you want. Like we say, it goes up to 100. You can set a timer. So if the breakout rooms, you only want them to go off and do a task and you want them to take maybe 10 minutes to do so, then that's really good. I think that's a particularly useful setting as well. And what it means is when they get to the end of their session, they'll be pulled back into the main room, whether they like it or not. They also get a countdown timer as well on their end, so they know that this room is going to end in 30 seconds, and it does a countdown for them. You've also got the shuffle feature here. So if you do have as many as 100 students and you're wanting to break them up, to do that manually would take a lot of time. So you have this button here and it can do it for you. Oops, I'm going back again. Bear with me. So when you're in here, you can just click and drag a name. So you'll have the list of students on there. So if you want to put them into the rooms, you just click and drag them over. Whiteboarding is another thing which is fairly new now. As far as I know, I think that's available across all Google Meet now. Certainly within our local authority, we have this available for use. It's called a whiteboard, but it's essentially a Jamboard, and it just opens up a Jamboard that's linked directly to that meeting. So it's very useful because you've got all the functionality of a Jamboard, which you wouldn't get with a regular whiteboard. You can have it during the meeting, you can have it after the meeting as well, so people can still continue to add to it later. And it also means everyone will have a copy of it too. So that's really useful as well. If there's some fantastic work going on in that Jamboard, it means that people can get back into it later on. You can also attach it to a recurring meeting, so you can have an ongoing document, an ongoing whiteboard, so everyone can contribute to it and expand upon it. And the other thing as well, it's dead easy to share. So if you're wanting to share it to other groups, it's very straightforward to do. So to create a whiteboard or a Jamboard, again, you're using those three little dots down in the bottom. And it will give you the option at the top, whiteboard, open a jam. So when you select that, that will give you a Jamboard specifically associated with that Google Meet. It gives you two options here as well. You can start a new whiteboard, or you can choose one from the drive. So if you've been preparing something in advance, so maybe you had some charts or diagrams that you wanted to discuss with your team, then you could have those already on a Jamboard, and then you'd be able to bring them up during the meeting and they would be linked to that meeting. So when the students want to access the Jamboard, again, this is one of those things that you have to kind of train them to start looking for. So you'll see up there, we've got just beside our blue shield in the bottom left-hand side, you can see we've got this little paper clips appeared. And that means that there's an attachment to that meeting. So if you go into that, this is what they'll see here. And it'll list the Jamboard. If there's any other documents, they'll all be in there. And the students can click on that and it automatically opens for them in a brand new tab. So here's a few kind of common questions. Does every meeting participant have access to view and edit? So that's yes, basically, unless you allow them to do that. They'll all get access into it unless you maybe set it up as a view only, but that's a pointless thing to do with a Jamboard anyway, because you really want people to contribute to it. It's available after the meeting. You can share it with in the Google Drive. You can share it as well as a link. They also, if your Gmail is switched on for your account, they'll also receive an email which will have a link to the whiteboard too. And anyone in the meeting can create a whiteboard and share it with all the participants as well. And you can also do these whiteboards in the breakout room. So that's really, really good for little group activities too. Now, sharing audio. Oh, I have been asked so many times for this one, and it's one of those things, if you know what you're doing, it's dead easy, and people tend to kick themselves as well after you pointed it out to them. So if you're watching a slideshow, for example, and it's got something from YouTube in it, if you have, in your sharing options, when you go down to present now, a lot of people are either going for a window or their entire screen. That will not share the audio from that. It only shares the visual. So if you're wanting to show something that's got audio in it on a web page or a video, then you have to do that tab, sharing a tab. That's not the end of it though, because when it opens up, when you select your tab, it has a little box, really annoyingly, just kind of tucked down in the corner, and you have to make sure that that's checked. So when that's checked, you make sure as well that you hit the share button, and then you'll get your audio on the slides that your viewers will be able to see. If you ever want any more help with the Google Meet, then there's some really good help out there. YouTube is full of teachers who've produced tutorials. There's a lot of people within Google and the Google Educator groups. They've got lots of videos and help out there as well. On Facebook, there's groups as well. We've also got if you do a Google search, Google have got their own tutorials as well. But also ask your colleagues, because you'll probably find that a lot of people have been learning as they go along and have some good tips and advice to offer you. So I'm going to try now and switch over, because I want to show you a live demonstration of the up-to-date account, which hopefully I have got. This is going to take my computer a lot of strain, so we'll see how it copes with it all. So if I stop this screen here, and then you'll see me trying to work out how to get onto this next bit here. So I think I need to go into, and if I share that one, and we are, and I'll make that one a little bit smaller. Okay, right. So hopefully if I set up this Google Meet now, it's not going to completely crash my computer. So this is me set up with a private account. So I'm just going to start a new meeting. And it seems to be working. Okay, good. So hopefully you can all see that okay. And so this is us here. Right. So you can see on this, we've got our menus down the bottom. We've got our bars here we're all familiar with, but this is the more up-to-date version. And you can see that I have this activities tab up here. So the real kind of key areas when you're using any of these is I would go down to the meeting details here. You can see there's no attachments on this just now. You've got your security settings. So you've got the quick access toggles here. So remember, if you switch this off, then people now have to ask to get back into the meeting. You've also got this one here, which is where you can stop them from sharing screens and stop them from sharing their chat messages. There's also the additional host settings here. And you've got your audio and your video, and you've got the other controls there, which were the quick access ones in that menu down the bottom. I think most people have got the raise hand switched on now. So if you've got a meeting, a large group of people, you can raise your hand and you'll see in your participants, you'll be able to see that somebody's activated raise hand. And that's a good way to get attention of the person that's taking the meeting. You've got closed captions for those with hearing impairments. It's not brilliant, it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And they're starting to improve as they go along. This menu down here, we've got loads happening. So I can change my background, which is obviously important. So you can see my lovely untidy sewing room in the background, and I can just put a blur on there to make it a little bit better, or I can put a big blur on it, or I can put myself on a nice hot sunny beach. That would be good, wouldn't it? Missing holidays. So yeah, you've got these options here. You can add your own backgrounds, not in this one, but it is possible to do. I haven't actually done that myself yet. You've got your record meeting. Now that's an interesting one as well, because a lot of teachers are wanting to record meetings, and that's absolutely fine, because if you're doing a meeting within your Google Classroom, it will automatically save it to your work account. So it's saving within your Glow account within Google account within Glow. So that's completely fine. However, you still have to get permission from all those involved. So sometimes when I'm planning on recording a meeting, I'll say in the stream when I'm announcing that I'm going to have a meeting, this meeting is going to be recorded. If anyone has any objections, can they let me know? And then the students can let us know. None of them have ever objected to it anyway, to be honest with you, but it's good to make sure you're covered by doing that. The whiteboard, the Jamboard, if you click on this, and then you've got the options, so I can start a new whiteboard, and it's just creating the jam down there. And you can see we've got our Jamboard on here, so you can maybe have people wanting to do little sticky notes. Nice pink one. And, you know, people can add their own sticky notes maybe to a diagram, or if they're wanting to write. Writing on this isn't so easy if you don't have a pencil or a pen. You can put pictures in, people can add their own things as well. You've also got your pointer feature on there as well, the shapes. There's lots you can do with Jamboard, and everyone can be collaborating on this at once, which is brilliant. You know, it's a really good tool to have. And remember, that is completely attached to that meeting, so it'll always be available for everyone that's involved in that meeting. So I'm just going to close that down just now. You can see here as well that the paperclip has now highlighted, and if we go into attachments, that's how you access that Jamboard. So in here we've also got our layout, change our layout. So you've got the options there. This isn't going to show me anything because I'm the only person in this meeting at the moment, but if there was other people there, by adjusting these settings, you'd start to see more appearing on your screen. We have our troubleshooting as well. Google are really pretty quick at getting back to you as well if there's any problems. And you've got your overall settings as well, which is similar to what you've got down on the left-hand side. So just to show you up here, this is the chat. If people are wanting to join in, they can put comments in there. Again, you can switch that off. You've also got your activities, and we've got our breakout rooms. Like I say, I'm only one person in here, so it's not going to be much of a breakout room, but that's where you click on it and it takes you into where you need to be. Your polls, and you would start a poll in there and you literally just type the questions in. And then there's a Q&A, which people can add questions and it all goes in, and you can upvote the questions as well, which are important. So it's all pretty self-explanatory. Like I say, it's one of these things, it's coming out gradually across the authorities. So I don't know, it's not, I can't give you any time scale. Certainly some of the features that I've got in my private account, I've had they've been there. Let me think now, the breakout rooms were there before Christmas and we've still not seen them in our local authority, but I'm sure they are going to come as well. So somebody saying that they couldn't see the Jamboard. I think that's, I need to share the desktop for that. Sorry, this is all new to me, using this StreamYard, this online streaming. So I will see if I can flip that onto, if I change my settings here. If I try and share my desktop, that'll work. So you're gonna get a kind of tunnel vision thing happening at the moment. And if I go into the Jamboard, so the Jamboard, you'll get the link for it down here. And if we open it up, it's coming. There we are. So this is how, with the Jamboard, you've got your pen tool up here. You've also got your eraser. You've got your select, but the sticky notes are the things that we use the most. They're quite good fun, actually. You might have a diagram on, and you might put lots of sticky notes from people in there. So you can ask people, for example, how was your day? Oh, fab. And then you can see there, you've got a post-it note, and you can move that around the page so people can all be collaborating on the same page. You've got text boxes and shapes. You've got images, you can put photographs on there. You can put GIFs into a Jamboard as well. And yeah, So it's all pretty self-explanatory. When the students do open it up as well, it's important to note that they'll get it open in a new tab. So you'll see that it's opening up there. And if I just want to go back to the meeting, I just go back onto this one here. Okie dokie. So I'm going to end my meeting because I can hear my computer, the steam engine starting to crank up inside it. So I'll leave that one there. And I shall move back over onto here. So what I would like to do, just as the last kind of slide, is I've got PowerPoint. I've got the meeting, the information from today. I've got the slides all saved up in a Wakelet. So if you haven't used Wakelets before, they're fantastic, really good way to share information. And it will be on this one here. And you've got a QR code on there. So if you scan that, or if you've got your camera handy on your phone, even if it's not going to do QR codes, then you can just take a little photograph of the address and you'll find everything in there on Wakelet. So like I say, I was quite keen to do slides today because I know a lot of people like to refer back to these things, these notes in their meetings as well. There's a lot to take in. And you know what, if I did this again in a month's time, there's a very good chance that there's going to be a lot more to talk about as well, because it's constantly changing. But I really hope for you guys that you get the opportunity to use some of these new tools because they are fantastic. Like I say, Breakout Rooms is going to be an absolute game changer for you. And I think you'll love them. Like I say, also really good for quiz nights with your friends. So anyway, thank you so much for coming along. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad my sound's been working okay on this one. If anyone's got any questions, if you want to just pop them in, I'll just wait a wee moment and see if anything comes in. I'm quite impressed my children haven't hijacked this meeting. I can hear them moving around in the corridor outside. So we shall see. Okay, right. Okay, I think there's no more questions, but you can get in touch if there's anything as well. If you find, go into Wakelet, you'll find most of the information there. Thanks very much, guys. Take care.